Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes. Now, today's eHero is Scott Paton, and we're going to teach you, or Scott's going to teach you, how to take your knowledge, turn it into a course that you can then market to others. So, welcome, Scott, and thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Rob. I'm delighted to be here.
Now, I know that, the whole introduction thing about taking your knowledge and turning it into a course sounds great. A lot of people have tried it. A lot of people have failed. You seem to be the master with, what, hundreds, thousands of courses on Udemy?
144 right now.
That's a lot of courses.
Yeah, all on Udemy.
People kid me about, how many books I've written, but, to have that many courses on one channel, I think that's a lot.
Yeah, it is. But I want to ask you a question, Rob. You've got 30 books. How many books would you have if you had 20 co-authors who were experts on a whole pile of fields so that you really didn't have to do any research?
I would have a lot more.
Yeah. And
because I have a couple co-authored books now on subjects that I didn't know before I started the books. Like I partnered with Heather Havenwood on the podcasting book, and partnered with.
I'm really upset about that too, by the way.
I'll have to get you one. But I partnered with a doctor on weight loss, and I didn't know anything about.
I thought you were looking kind of slimmer.
Yes, but this weight loss is where he takes half your stomach out, and the gastric sleeve surgery, and he's a brilliant doctor,
Wow.
and but again, that he's down in Mexico. I'm in the United States. You're in Canada.
That's right.
A lot of his clients don't come from Mexico. They come from Canada. They come from the United States. They come from all over. And because medical tourism is huge.
Yeah, it is. And you can do stuff there that either is too expensive here or they don't let you do here.
Right. Yeah, and I in the United States, our insurances prohibit a lot of that. They want you to have mental evaluation before you get these types of elective surgery, and then they will dictate whether or not you're mentally aware of what you're doing. I'm like, it's your money, get the surgery, and that's why people go to Mexico and get this stuff done. But it's weird because I started out with one book, and from that one book it mushroomed, and I don't think at the time I was looking to create more books.
I'm the same way.
I was looking just to get that one book out there with that one piece of information, and it just kind of mushroomed. And I'm sure that's how it happened with you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with me. I just wanted to I actually didn't want to do the first video course, but I had been invited to talk to a marketing department at a app building company about podcasting. And afterwards, the marketing director grabbed me and he said, "Scott, you've got to do a video course on podcasting." And I'm like, I have a 3-page PDF. That's good enough. No, you've got to do this course. And what it did was it forced me to look at what I was actually doing on a minute by minute basis, because when you're just doing it and you don't always know what you're doing. And once I had finished that course, the other thing I didn't tell you was I made most of the course in South America. My children had grown up, they had moved out, and I thought, or they were the last one was in the process, you could see it was coming, and I wanted to travel, but I didn't know if I would like it, right? Because I'd been in the same house for 10 years and this sort of thing. And so I went on a trip to Machu Picchu. I said, I'm going to go do something for me. Where do I want to go? Machu Picchu. And so I spent a couple of weeks in Colombia, a week in Ecuador, and a week or so in Peru. And everywhere that I went, well, I shouldn't say everywhere I went, like in Colombia, I was planning out what I was going to talk about. And then Ecuador, I recorded a little bit. But I was watching these other video courses and I thought, how boring. They've got this blank background or whatever. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to do the introductions to each section with Machu Picchu in the background? So that's what I did. I'm walking around with my little, I think it was an iPod because it was like 5 or 6 years ago, on a selfie stick, talking about, well, when you podcast and you want to do this and that, and we're going to be talking about, how you do your MP3s. And I've got this big freaking Machu Picchu in the background behind me, and so it was really, so it became a really fun thing. And then of course I would do the screen shares because most of it is like, what do you do on your computer? And I made the course, and that was going to be it. Like I thought, I'll just, this person, I really respect him. It was kind of like being on Mount Sinai, thousands of years ago, and hearing this voice, write this down, and there was no question you were going to do it. And that's how I felt. It was like, okay, I have to do it. And once I was done, it was, the question then was like, where do I put it? And I decided on Udemy, and I went to sign up on Udemy, and I discovered that I had actually signed up a year before and then ignored it. So someone had told me, oh, this is the latest, greatest. And I should have started a year before I did. But, no one said I was the sharpest knife in the drawer. Uh, but when I started looking at Udemy, I was looking at these courses and I thought, wow, like there's this yoga course and it's got 5,000 students and it's $100 for the course. Like that guy's making, or that gal's making a lot of money. And I would look at other ones. And so I was sucked into a false perception, because Udemy gave out at those days lots of freebies, lots of free coupons. They deep discounted to $5, $6. Now it's $10 is the lowest you can go, and so a lot of these people got in for a fraction. But if you go to a site like that, and I don't know if we're any smarter now or not, I think we are, and you see all of these prices, and then you see that they've got a slash and they've crossed it off, and it's now $10 from $200, then people would binge buy. So people would buy, you know, 10 courses, like, oh, it's $100 a course. I can get 10 for $100. I'm going to do that. Right. And that's what they did. And it grew. And when I started, they had 5 million students. Now they're at 30 or 40 million students. And it's just absolutely amazing. But I got really excited when I started seeing this, and I had some clients and I said, hey, do you want to do this course with me? Like, look at this site. These guys are making a fortune. And so they all jumped on and said, sure. And I started making these courses, and I realized that I needed a system. I had spent 20 years being a grocery store manager with between 100 and 300 employees and 22,000 customers a week. And when I left that, I just wanted to sit in my basement in my corner all by myself with no contact with human beings. So the whole idea of actually building a team and having somebody else was really, but it was obvious that I would not get it done. So I created a system where I would just send someone a PDF, they would fill it out, send it back to me, and I would create the course in Udemy, and then I'd set a schedule and say, okay, these are the lectures, and you don't have to do an hour and a half. That was the length of time we picked. All at once, we just do like 10-minute chunks. So you can just talk about 10 minutes about this, 10 minutes about this, 10 minutes about this, and we're done. The video editor edits, it goes up, and it would take you between 2.5 and 3 hours of your time. So this was for people who didn't want to learn any video editing, didn't want to learn any technical stuff, didn't want to go to Udemy and try and figure out how to make a new course, because I just looked after all of it. And the result was, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've made 144 courses. Now, it's a good thing I had my co-instructors, because I'm not an expert on 143 of those topics, right? But that's how it started.
That's funny. And the thing is that, I think 10 years ago I got into the whole podcasting space, and I did, I don't know, 15, 20 interviews, and and some of these people were like, kind of like my marketing heroes, and I got some brilliant stuff out of them. But then I got tired, and I'm like, I can't do this every single week. I just don't have time to do it. And it wasn't until after I wrote that book with Heather, that it was called Power Guesting, and it was all
Mm.
about how to be the perfect guest on someone's podcast. And I'm not a perfect guest. I'm very sarcastic. I usually just give the wrong answers, and I show up in a t-shirt. And I thought, I'm going to do my own. I'm going to interview the people I want. And the problem is that like the first 30 episodes was like once a week, once a week, once. I don't have time to do once a week. But then I skipped like 6 months and I didn't do anything. And then when I came back to it, I thought, I got to do things differently. People like the podcast, they want more. So I started recording in chunks. And I would take, a week or two and just record 12 episodes. And then the next 3 months are done. And then
Right.
that became very easy for me because then it became easier. It became not only easier to edit, but easier just to program everything. And the feedback people are giving me are great. I mean, they love being on the show. They love I don't really have any questions. I just kind of go where the conversation's going,
Right.
interject a little bit, and my book sales have gone up. Everything else is going. I mean, it's great because now I set it up the way I want.
Right.
But
Yeah, and you're happier about it. It has more longevity.
yeah,
And one of the things that you've got, Rob, is you have a curious mind. So as a podcast host, having the curious mind is key because
mhm.
you'll listen to what your guest says and then it'll say, oh, like, well, what about this? Or what about that? And then, so you never have to have a canned set of questions that you need to go through.
But I like how you said that your first thing was a PDF, and I'm like laughing at it, going, "Who does PDFs anymore?"
Right.
But I tried the whole Udemy course thing, and I looked at it, and I'm like, man, everybody's giving, because you had touched on it that at the time Udemy was giving a lot of stuff for free, discounting this and this, and I was reading the comments, disgruntled people creating courses, they weren't making any money.
Right.
I'm thinking, it just seems like a lot of work
Hmm.
if I have no control over price. But you found the system that works for you where you
Yeah.
can make some money. And when I think the last time I looked on Udemy, I mean, I saw your name everywhere,
Oh,
which,
oh, good.
I guess was kind of good.
Well, with 144 courses on probably 15 totally different topic areas, it I tend to show up in a lot of places. Uh, the the problem I think that most people have. So here's the situation: how much does a elementary school teacher make in North America? How much does the number 5 top quarterback in the NFL make? And you'll see that there's a huge, huge difference, right?
Oh yeah.
And to think that just by taking what you know and teach and putting it onto a online platform is going to turn you into the number 5 ranked quarterback in the NFL is unrealistic. And there are reasons, and I don't necessarily agree with them, why there is such a huge difference, right? So for me, it's like education. If you think that you're going to make a fortune putting a couple courses on Udemy or one course on Udemy, that's unrealistic. Has
Mhm.
somebody done it? Yes. Does that mean you can do it? I don't know, right? It's not, it's the odds are not in your favor, just like the
Right.
odds are not in my favor of being the number 5 quarterback in the NFL. That's never going to happen, right? So the problem I see it is one of a system or a goal or a plan. And the plan is, if the plan is to, I'm going to put up a course on Udemy or somewhere else and I'm going to make a fortune, that's a bad plan.
Mhm.
Because in every business, like you take any, like IBM, right? The president of IBM makes millions and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. The guy that's soldering the computer together in the basement is making $10 an hour, right? They're all pyramids, right? And I don't mean that in a nasty way. It's just
Right.
that's just the way it is. And there are people on Udemy, all they do is put a course out every couple of months or every year, or they update their course. If it's if it's Photoshop, it's Photoshop version 342 today. So for the last 300 years, they've been able to update it, right? So those people are making a fortune. right? But that's a very, very small number. Like there's 50,000 instructors, say, on Udemy, and most of them are barely making enough to buy a coffee once a month, right? But that's so that to me is the wrong strategy. The right strategy is, as us marketers always say, have a back end.
Mhm.
Now, we were talking a little bit about the history of online marketing, and we had talked about before we came online, and I brought up this free report, right? Like people would, the big thing was you have this little pop-up, and the pop-up is free report, learn how to make a ton of money doing whatever it was, right? Or learn how to use Photoshop fast, or my 3 big tips for writing a book. Whatever your thing was, you had to have a giveaway, right? And I bet 10, 15, 20 years ago, people were spending weeks, if not months, writing these free reports. And I basically said, what if we did an online course? Udemy sold the course. And so instead of taking my free report and using Google AdWords or Google Ads, I'm dating myself, I guess,
Yeah.
to drive some traffic, get someone that just saw the ad, clicked on it, has no clue who you are, has no clue what you do, has no clue what it's about, just wanted to charge you 25 cents or a buck. And then they come, they look at it and they bounce. Or they
Mhm.
come, they look at it, they get it, they leave, and you've got their email, but they never open your emails. Like, because they've oftentimes people will say, hey, if you get a buyer, that's way better than getting someone that's just cold off the street. So my way of looking at it is, if we create an hour and a half course and we do it in 3 hours, because that's my system, it's only going to cost you 3 hours, and all you have to do is show up and share your knowledge. And I mean, who can't talk for an hour on their topic or one aspect of their topic, right? If you're passionate about it, I can't get you to shut up is more the problem, right? And so, and then you just meet, you create the content. I look after all the content, put it all up. Udemy brings the traffic. Now, this is why back ends are so important, right? And it's so funny because even now people are resistant. I have one a co-instructor, and he's a business coach. And he says, okay, Scott, we're going to do these courses. And he's all sold on doing the courses, and we've done 10 courses, right? And so he sits down with me, and what I'm about to tell you, I've told him every month for the last 10 months. So this is not new news to him. He says, well, what are we going to do to monetize this? And I says, well, you have to make a back end. Oh, you told me that last month, didn't you? Yeah, and the month before and the month before. So you should do that. Like what? So the real question is, if you had 100 really, uh, I was going to say frenzied fans, but people that really loved what you were teaching and what you were doing, and they wanted to do more, what would that be? So one easy one is do another course and have them take the other course. But can you coach them on that? Can you do group coaching on that? Can you consult with them? Do you have a software that you want them to? I mean, it's perfect for software if you have a monthly subscription, right? Because they want to use the software every month, and now we've got a whole bunch of people that would never have heard of you who spent 2 or 3 hours learning your software without you having to teach them. They understand your strategies, and they want to get the software. And of course, you're going to have to coach them in the beginning. Like, I'm a firm believer that you can put all the information on YouTube or wherever you want, and people can watch it, and the majority of people aren't going to do anything.
Right.
So how do you get them to do something? Well, you need to hold them by the hand and take them there. So if that's coaching, consulting, group coaching, retreats, like however it is you want, or it could be your book, or like you need to have something on the back end that you want. Like I was talking to one lady, she makes these teas, and they're not ordinary teas. And so she wanted to make a course on each one of these teas, which I thought was absolutely insane until I realized what her business was, right? Because once people know that they take this green orange tea and it, I don't know, helps your eyes brighten or something, then, and they want it, then I thought, oh, okay. So, but she had a back end, right? So the ones that are really successful with me are ones that have a back end. They have a goal in mind. So I look at the courses as a pillar of my marketing plan, not as the end result of my business. And I think when you make that shift, and the idea of having tens or hundreds or thousands of people who know who you are before, and know what you're doing, and know what you're all about, and know what your product is all about before they call you, is way better than having to take them all through this huge process in order to turn them into a customer.
Yeah, with me, it's the same thing with books. I mean, I tell my clients all the time. I said, look, this book is kind of going to be like an overglorified business card. It's going to tell people, lots about you, your adventures, your experiences, but don't expect to make a lot of money on the book per se. It's all on the back end. People are going to hire you for coaching. They're going to hire you for, helping them. If you're a law firm, they're going to help you, with your case. If you're, a doctor, you're going to, and so on and so forth. But
Right.
the same thing with courses. There has to be that further thing that gets them to
Yes,
their wallet a little bit more and give you more money.
exactly. Exactly.
But so is there more? I mean, you have 147 now. Is there going to be plans for 300?
Yeah, you'll probably have me on in a couple of years, and I'll say, yeah, we hit 300. It just keeps going, right? Like for a couple of my co-instructors that are really keen, we just set a time. So Monday at 1, I meet Luca, we record, and he's all about this and that. And what happens? So I'm a lifelong learner. Like I really love to learn. Most of what I love learning, it happens to be in the internet marketing, online marketing world, copywriting, that sort of stuff. But I also love learning things about in areas that I didn't even know existed, right?
Mhm.
Like maybe cryptocurrency. I didn't know that existed a few years ago before it really took off. And so and everything I do is word of mouth. So as my friends say, they're talking to their buddy or whatever, or a friend of theirs, and they just say, hey, you should talk to Scott because he could make a course with you on that, right? Then they contact me, we see if it's a good fit, and we start making the courses together. But generally speaking, it's just set a time, meet that time, you get into that consistency, and you have a goal. Because I tell everybody, we say the same thing in internet marketing. Like you've got probably 50 keywords that people will search on variations of to find you that are all really, really different. It could be like
Mhm.
email marketing versus pay-per-click marketing or something, right? And so you can't put all the keywords into one title on a web page. So we make multiple web pages.
That's right.
And it's the same with this. Someone might be interested in uh, writing a book. Someone might be interested in marketing a book. Somebody might be interested in self-publishing a book. Somebody might be interested in how to make a better book cover. Someone might be interested in how to make better writing. So you could cram all of those into a course, call it a master course, or you could have 5 separate courses.
Right.
So if you cram them all into a master course, let's just say it takes 10 hours to go through. Now you're selling a 10-hour course for $10. How do you feel, Rob? Like, not very good, right? I wouldn't feel very good, right? But if you have 10 hours, so you have 10 separate courses because you've got level 1, level 2, level 3 on these as well. Because it's easy to say, well, we only got an hour, so we can't really, go into this in detail, but take my next course and it'll go into detail on titles, how to do titles or chapter titles or whatever it is, right? Because I know that you could chunk these down and talk for an hour on little. The, you know what an expert is? It's not an X under pressure. An expert is somebody that knows that they don't know. I know I don't know everything about podcasting, and there's still things for me to learn, but I also know an awful lot of detail about podcasting. So I can start from the high end on podcasting and everything else, and then I can get down to, you know, how many hertz the audio has to be at to be right, those sort of things, so you can go as deep as you want. And so if you get a bunch of students that are really interested, or you're noticing you've got 3,000 students in one course and 100 in another course, which course should you make a level 2 on? It's pretty easy to do that. And so you have kind of this going deep and going wide. So
Right.
you capture people whose interests are close to what it is that you're talking about, or one aspect of what you're talking about, and they might not know that they could self-publish. But now that they've taken your course on how to write a better book, and you mention, oh, by the way, self-publishing is really a good way to get your book out there, so you don't have to go to Madison Avenue and try and sell your book to these guys, right? Oh, I never knew that. You would think everybody knows that, I would too. But the fact is that very few people do, because we're also as experts in our field, we're kind of insulated from the real world.
Mhm.
What we know, everybody knows. We tend to discount what we know, and the real truth of the matter is that very few people know what we know.
You know,
So
and going back to your example of the web page is, where you have to have multiple pages because you can't cover all the keywords. In my book, my co-authored book with Paul Douglas, Optimize This, which was all about SEO, which came out a long time ago. But when we actually cranked that out, we had a concept, we published it, and from 0 to 60 days, we got it out on Amazon. It became #1 bestseller in 4 countries. I mean, it was
nice.
just awesome. But one of the acronyms I like to use when I optimize websites is called APE, APE. And the A stands for analytical, the P stands for psychological, and the E stands for emotional. And those are the ways that people search for keywords.
Hmm.
When I tell people, stop using your industry jargon because the common folk don't understand it, only you and the people within your industry are going to search those terms.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to use analytical, psychological, and emotional keywords because that's how they feel. That's how their thought processes are. So those are the keywords that you need to look for when you rank your websites. And
Rob,
that
I have to interrupt you for just a second. I have a great story for you.
okay.
I ran grocery stores for 20 years, right?
Hmm.
So I'm in the middle of the sales floor. The aisles are all around me, and I've got 5 clerks in front of me. So I'm talking to them all. I'm saying, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. Okay, we all got the plan. Yep. And off they ran. And I turn around, and there's a lady with a shopping cart right behind me. And I go, hello. And she goes, hello. She says, I was listening to everything you just told your employees to do. And English is my first language. And I have to tell you that I did not understand one word that you said. But it was very obvious they all understood you. And so even something as basic as, stocking shelves can be totally incomprehensible to
Hmm.
the general public.
Right.
And when you were saying it, that just flashed in my head. I'll never forget that.
And most people that practice SEO, they just rank industry jargon, and then they wonder why their sites aren't ranking.
Yeah.
Well, you're not attracting your prime audience, and those prime audience people are the ones with money. All the
Yeah.
rest are low hanging fruit that are just going to waste your time.
Low hanging rotting fruit.
Rotting fruit. That's a grocery store jargon. My first job was working in a grocery store a lifetime ago,
Yes.
and I was a bagger, bag groceries, and
That's how I started out.
the gentleman who owned the grocery store, it was passed on to him from his dad and his before that his grandfather. So it was always in the family, and we had to show up wearing ties, and we had to
Yes.
bag groceries, and it was paper bags at the time. Now it's all plastic, and nobody wears ties. And but it was the grocery store is still there, but he's been long past. So
Yeah.
it was taken over by his employees, and they
Oh,
just don't have the same attitude.
yeah. Now there's a difference between ownership and just working, right?
Yeah. So, when people want to create a course, where do they go? How do they find out more information about you?
Well, the best way to find out more about me is actually to go to Udemy, which is udemy.com, and do a search on my name, Scott Paton, Paton, or you could go to udemy.com/user/Scott Paton. And I have my Twitters on there, my website's on there, my Facebook's on there, LinkedIn. I don't have my email on there. I guess I should see about that.
Yeah, we can't spam you.
But it'll tell you a little bit about me. It'll show you the different courses that I've done, and I didn't come on here to promote making courses or anything like that. Usually, everybody I work with is a referral from a friend or already a friend and decided that they wanted to do that. And the reason for that is because uh, what I've noticed is those people follow through, right?
Mhm.
So I don't bug anybody. I mean, it's like you live your life however you want to live. It's not my job to control you or anything. And someone will say, so here's the process. Someone says, Scott, I want to do a course. I go, yes. Okay. I mean, I listen to you first of all, and if you're not saying every second word, and you're not stuttering, and you're not like able to hold a if you can hold a thought for more than 50 seconds, then you're it's good, right? I mean, you can get a new mic or you can get a new camcorder. There's technical things that we may want to do, but generally speaking, how do you present yourself? Do you present yourself well, confidently, because people are going to be looking at you, and if you're not confident,
I
and
don't
and
want
you
them looking at me. Don't look.
then and it's not my job to judge whether your topic is something that's going to be successful. There's a lady who's made $30,000 a year selling courses on how to make sourdough bread,
Wow.
and she's got like 4 courses on sourdough bread. So if you'd asked me in my infinite wisdom, I would have said don't bother, but I would have been totally wrong. So who knows, right? And it's 3 hours of your time. The way I put it is this, Rob. If you and I went, we were in the same city, we like each other, we get together, we've had coffee, and you call me up or I call you up and I say, you know what? I know you really love Star Wars. The latest Star Wars movie is out. I want to go see it. You want to go see it sometime? Sure. So we go see it on Saturday evening, and it's terrible. It's the worst Star Wars that us Star Wars connoisseurs have ever seen in our lives. We leave, we bitch and complain and moan about it for 20 minutes, and then we get on with our lives, right? So if we spend 20 minutes on a course and nothing happens and the market doesn't like it and Udemy hates it and all the students give us 1-star reviews, then we just move on to something else. It's no big deal. It's like we went to see a movie, and it's not like we spent 6 months, 12 hours a day, with a team of 30 people that we paid $100 an hour to put together this massive 10-hour course that nobody likes, right?
Mhm.
It's just the way it is. And that has never happened to me, by the way. I've never had a bad experience like I just described, but that's the worst that can happen. And so, for me, that's a minimal amount of time and energy. So I'll send you a PDF and I'll say, fill this out. You might fill it out in a couple of days. You might fill it out in a couple of years. It might be 25 years before you get back to me with it. uh, I don't care, right? Because when you get back with me, I make the course, and then I get back with you and I say, when can we record? You know, and that's kind of the if I haven't really had any contact with you, right? If you're somebody like I'm doing a course with a fellow in Colombia, he's actually from Slovakia or or Serbia or Slovenia. It's an S, and it's in the middle of Europe. That's all I remember, right? and uh, and so I was in Colombia and he was in Colombia. We were staying at the same place and we got talking, and he said, I'd really like to do this course with you, after we'd had like a couple hours of chatting about all sorts of different things. And I said, great. So with him, we said, okay, Monday, you're really keen, you really want to do this. Monday at 1 o'clock, we'll meet every week and we'll just put the course together. We'll meet in the beginning to go over any questions and make sure you're clear about how things are going. And today's Thursday, so on Monday we're going to meet and start recording. And he has 5 or 6 courses that he's already mapped out in his head, which is great. And what happens, of course, is that I'm going to be listening to what he's talking about and learning with him, and I'm going to be saying, oh, well, here's can you talk for an hour on this, can you talk for an hour on that? Yeah, easily. Then those will become more courses, more courses. So it's a real infinite font of courses with whoever the instructor is, and then it's just a matter of organizing everything so that it gets done in a timely manner.
Wow. Now, is there one course or a couple courses that you've created that just kind of came out of nowhere but are making a lot of money?
I have a number of courses on emotional intelligence that I really, really like. And of course, you have to understand, I am not the instructor on the course because I don't think I could teach emotional intelligence. but that's gone really well. I have a series of courses on stock options that have gone really well. Do you know what EFT is? This is when you tap the points of your,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so you tap the top of your head around your eyes, your chin, and
When I
so
do
I
that,
work.
people think I'm crazy, so I don't do that.
Uh, so I have about 20 courses on that, and of course, you see, EFT is emotional freedom techniques for getting rid of stressors and stuff. So what's a stressor? Going through divorce, or uh, you know, being overworked or overwhelmed, or so we've picked, or weight loss, right? I stress eat, or
Hmm.
so each one of her courses, just so you understand, is teaching the same technique, but we're teaching it and applying it to a different problem. And I learned that from a fellow who was very successful teaching software programming. He taught a specific software program. I don't know what it was, like Ruby on Rails on an Apache server with a Linux environment or something crazy. But he didn't teach you how to write with the program. He taught you, and I'll take it back to web pages, because I don't know what I didn't understand what he was teaching, but he would teach you how to make a form on a website. That was the whole course. Then he would teach you how to make a buy button and attach it to PayPal or something, or then he would teach you how to insert a graphic in the page. So he was teaching a very, very specific task in his environment, which I just thought was brilliant,
Yeah,
because
and,
what would
and and
happen,
the thing is these are things that as a web guy I take for granted because I just know how to do it, and I'm
right?
like 5 minutes later. But there's people out there that'll waste 15 hours of their day researching how to do it, and then they go buy the course.
Yeah, when they could buy the course. And what happened with him? So here's a good market, right? Is a lot of his students were in India and Pakistan and poor countries, and their boss would say to them, uh, "Mohammed, make a form." And he would go and he'd look and he'd look and he'd go, "I don't know how to do this." Nobody knew how to do this. He'd go back to the boss and he said, "I found a course on Udemy on how to make a form, and it's like $15. Can you buy it for me?" And the boss would buy it. So that was what was happening. They were selling a lot of courses in poorer countries where it was the business that was buying the course, so the employee could get the training and do the work, which is a big shift from when I was a grocery store manager. In that, when we trained, I would train them, my cashier would train the cashiers, we would have someone come in from the office, and we'd have a classroom, we would train people. Now all that human resource training has really disappeared, and what's taking over is like the online classes, right? So if you've got a job and you're doing whatever that may be, there's a lot of people that need that knowledge, and they don't know how to get the knowledge anymore because their companies are not training them. They may say, well, we'll give you, $100 a month to spend on online video courses, Rob, and just pick what you think you need to learn, or we'll give you a list. Here's the courses that you can take. There's those sort of things that are happening now.
Oh, when you think about it, though, you're still the grocery store manager. It's just a different product. Udemy's the grocery store. You're the manager telling people where to put your stuff.
Yeah, it's funny how. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I never thought of that before. But you're absolutely right. Is like, I have tried to break out of the mold, because as a store manager, one of my number one duties was to look after the customer, right?
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, when I left, I'm going to do some affiliate marketing, or I'm going to do this for me, or I'm going to do, and I just never had any juice in it.
Mhm.
Just, it's not knowledge, no problem, but I just didn't want to do it. And I've decided, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it, because otherwise I'm fighting with myself about why am I doing it, beating myself up, and that's not productive either. And so I realized, like, I'm happiest when I have I have a bunch of clients, not a lot of clients.
Mhm.
It's a lot of co-instructors, but it's when clients is a small group, and I just look after them. And Blair Singer with Sales Dogs really helped me. I saw him on a stage, and I thought, and he talked for an hour, and I just thought, wow, right? Because I thought sales was bulldog, and I'm
Mhm.
not a bulldog. I'm a golden retriever, right? Tell me there's a problem here. Tell me the problem. I'll fix the problem. Scratch me behind the head. My tail will wag, and things are good, right? And once I realized that's what I was, instead of a bulldog, selling was easy. Before selling, remember I'd mentioned knocking on doors and always getting no's. I was my bulldog, right? I mean, you'd open the door, I'd grab your leg in my jaws and hang on until you kicked me out the door. And if that was not my personality, it didn't work. But now that you bring this whole thing about Udemy being a grocery store, I realize, yeah, that's
And a lot of the things that I teach is authority broadcasting. You build that authority by basically broadcasting your message out to the world. And that's exactly what you're doing, with all your courses. Now you become an expert on all these things, and people are like, wow, I really need you to help me.
right.
And so the audience that's out there that's listening right now, whether you need a book, whether you need a course, whether you need, to boost that authority, contact me, contact Scott, you know, take that next step and get your knowledge out there, because that knowledge is what's going to help people trust you. Because I'm not a big believer in trying to learn 101 sales pitches, because I to me that's too many. you know
Right.
i i i i, I build everything I do on trust.
Do you know the Bruce Lee quote?
There's
I
so many of
do
them.
I do not fear the man who knows 1,000 punches. I fear the man who's practiced one punch 1,000 times. I think he said 10,000, but
Yeah.
you said 1,000, so I wanted to tie it in with what you said. The the other thing that the courses do, and I think Amazon, for example, does the same thing. If you've got a book, like a lot of our, it's really interesting. Like you've picked one area and I picked a different area, and really we're doing the same thing. Like
Mhm.
it was very, it's a different modality. You listen and watch a movie or a video and you read a book, but it's really the very, very similar. And on Udemy, they tell you how many students you've got. So I'm looking right now at my page. I have 472,132 students.
And you know every single name.
I do. Uh, but you know what? If I told you, if you go to my website and you'll see that I have 500,000 students, you'll go, does he really? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Who did the audit, right? He's just bullshitting me. And I have 11,525 reviews.
Mhm.
So when you go to a third party website, whether it's Amazon or Udemy, and because you're checking out the person who is an expert in the field, and you see, wow, they have 20,000 students, they have 500 5-star reviews, or it's 4.2 or whatever it is, then you have a whole bunch of third party credibility that's pretty amazing. And that's what happened with my EFT lady. She was in her 60s when we started, and she's someone who has been in the little corner basement office working one on one with people. So think of someone who looks like in the 1960s, in their 60s, kind of crumpled over, frumpy, and all the rest of it. And then we started doing these courses, and now she's seeing herself on the video all the time. So she starts dressing better, she starts standing up straighter, her posture is better. She's becomes more and more confident as she does more and more courses, because she's public speaking, even though it's just with me. She knows that she's got 10,000 students and some of them are going to be watching her. And it's like the caterpillar and the butterfly, if you saw the picture before and the picture a few years later. But then it got better, because there were a lot of conferences that she wanted to speak at, and they wouldn't even answer her, right? Or they would just say no, give her a canned no answer. So then she said, well, these are the courses I've got. I've got 30,000 students on Udemy. Here's the link. Go check it out. And here's a free coupon for the course so you can see what I'm like on stage. And they invited her to conference after conference after conference. So it became, to me, this is why the back end is so important. Like, if you got up in front of 100 people or 1,000 people at a conference, what are you going to tell them to do? Well, it's not going to be go to Udemy and buy my course, I hope,
Right.
right? But you need to have something. So this is why I also say it's a pillar of your marketing. If your goal is to get on stages, you have to have a book. And if you have a bunch of courses and you can get a bunch of students in the courses and some good reviews, then that's going to support your whole endeavor on getting onto these platforms, right? Because people love it when they can look and say, oh wow, like they've got all these students, you've got all this, you've got all that, you've got all these readers, all these 5-star reviews of your books, all. And then it becomes, rather than just being a stranger, who you're going to risk your whole career and business on being on stage, you have someone that you know that you can be confident that they're going to do a great job.
Mhm. Yeah, and the thing is that if you have a course or a book, and then you finally hear that person speak on stage, everything kind of clicks together. I know a lot of people who don't have books, don't have courses, but they've made themselves kind of a name in the social media world. Then they get up on stage and all they're doing is reading, from a slide. I'm like, you
Right.
could have just sent that to me via email, you know. So
I
it's
have
good.
to, if we had just one more minute, I have to
Sure.
finish the Blair Singer story because he got on stage. He just totally changed how he looked at sales because his book is called Sales Dogs.
Hmm.
Sales Dogs, yeah. And I thought, man, if this guy can give this great information in an hour talk, what must be in his book? So I rushed to the back, got the book. When I got home, I read the book. There was nothing in the book that he hadn't touched on in his talk. So I'm upset, right? Because I was had this expectation of, well, how much more interesting things would he be teaching me? And then 3 months later, I couldn't remember what he said in his presentation. So I was so happy I had the book
Hmm.
because then I reviewed it. And I go, yeah, that's the, because I was starting to revert back to a bulldog or to a chihuahua or some of the other that don't help me sell, right? And so it
Oh
was
yeah.
really interesting. So I thought, you get up there, you give all your best stuff, they buy the book, and I would warn people, buy the book because 3 months from now, when you forget and you really you really need this information, you'll have the resource there.
Well, a
And
lot of my readers know that I recycle a lot of my material, and they'll get a lot of my Rob versus books, and they'll like, well, you shared that on your blogs. Yeah, almost everything in the Rob versus books I've shared out already on Facebook or social media, but I've compiled them in a way that it's now an easy reference.
right,
And so people are buying the book and they have it in and they're sharing it with their friends. And you know, sometimes the information that you share out there can be recycled in such a way that you're still making money from it, even though you've given it away.
right. So I want to do a shout out to Rob versus the Scammers. Okay, I'm holding it up here. I have read it, and I want to tell you first of all, it's very entertaining. It's an easy read, it's entertaining, it's fun. There's
That's
nothing in
sarcastic.
the book, and yeah, sarcastic. And there's nothing in the book that I did not know. But that's not the point. The point is there's a lot in here that my mom doesn't know,
Right.
right? So this is a perfect book for the people that you love to protect them from the scammers.
Hmm.
And I'm going to give it to my mom when I
And
see her.
the next one is Rob versus the morons because I take on customer service. And there's a lot of things in there that most people know, but still, you go in a grocery store, you go into at a department store, you go in a restaurant, and you get lousy customer service. This is how you're going to handle it.
Right.
Now, me being sarcastic makes the story even better. But most
Right.
people are just going to go, "Yes, sir, I understand. Great. Have a nice day." Not me. But it's the reason I wrote Rob versus the Scammers was to educate people first,
Yeah.
but it's also funny because it makes them laugh.
Yeah.
There is not one situation in there that you probably haven't experienced being on the phone, getting a scam call, or being on the email or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Well, I recognize a whole bunch of them.
But the whole thing is, and the funny thing is that I compiled it all together, and a friend of mine says that's not a book. That's more of sharing your stories. You know, anybody can have a criticism, but you cannot let that criticism stop you from putting your products out there.
Right.
People are going to criticize your courses. They're going to criticize your books. They're going to criticize any articles or work that you do. As an entrepreneur, you have to dismiss it and just keep on going.
That's right. You have to have your vision and you have to hold it close to your heart and not let anybody steal it.
Yeah. So this is what makes Scott an e-hero, and please check him out. Go to Udemy and take some of his courses. And of course, buy my books because I'll love you even more. Not really, but buy them anyway because you're gonna like the books.
That's
And
right.
I will catch you guys on the next episode. Adios.